Hello everyone, welcome back to Testing Mindset. Thank you for your patience. It took a while to make a second episode. Today I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I got into testing. I am generally a very lucky person. I've always received everything that I needed when I needed, and all my wishes came true. Some had some delay, maybe 20 years. But if everything is easy, maybe it's not so interesting to have it. The day I began testing, I started my path towards becoming a tester, was a summer day. I was quite bored and I didn't know what to do, and I was in between universities, and I decided to visit one of my cousins. I bought a chocolate, and I went to her flat. I knocked at the door, she opened, she was very happy to see me. It was like, "Yay, you remembered." And I said, "Yay, I did. What did I remember?" "You remember it's my birthday." "Oh yes, happy birthday. Here I have a small present. Sorry I didn't wrap it." And, you just go with the flow. It wasn't really a lie. I explained later that no, I did not remember. It was just a coincidence. And if not, there it goes. She had a party prepared exactly that day to have beer and pizza. And we went for beer and pizza. And one person present at the party, it was quite small group. But one person present at the party had a jacket. Okay. Now that I'm thinking of it, it was it wasn't summer. It was spring. It was still chill. So he had the light jacket, and on the back of it was the name of a gaming company. I knew about it because that's what I was doing most of the time, playing games. And I asked if I could join the named game company. What do I need to do to work there? And he said, "What kind of university are you studying?" I said, "What I'm studying." And he's like, "Okay, what kind of person are you?" I'm like, "This," and I'll get into a lot more details when we'll talk about the first interview. "And what is your English knowledge?" "I'm okay. I can read. I can write." "Okay, send me a CV because we are looking for some play testers soon." It only took till the autumn when the positions were actually opened. And I applied and I went to my first interview in the IT industry. For the interview, there were two gentlemen, one very nicely dressed with a white shirt and a jacket, and the other one with just some t-shirt or a shirt, very, very unremarkable. During the interview, the gentleman in the suit was asking all the questions and being very straight back, very attentive. The other gentleman was just looking at the ceiling, However, he was listening very well what I had to say. Can you guess which one was the boss? Well, I didn't. At first, I barely paid any attention to the gentleman that was looking at the ceiling. That one was the boss. So, tips and tricks number 1. Whenever you're into an interview, pay as much as you can attention to every single person in the room. Of course, if somebody addressed you a question, answer to that person, but try to pay attention to everybody because you never know who's the actual boss, unless they present themselves. Usually it's just a name. Okay. I successfully guessed the correct word that was the key to demonstrate that my English skills are good. It was a simple translation. I said I like to play. I said I'm fine doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. It's not really that bad. It's just over and over and over and over again. And they decided to give me a job. For 3 months at least, as a trial, see how it goes. It was very, very, very interesting because I was making money from my hobby and my passion. That's the absolute best way of destroying a hobby or a passion, to make it a job. I didn't touch games for more than 6 months after I finished with that job. So don't do that. Let the job be the tool that makes you money, not your greatest passion. I don't know what Socrates was talking about. Anyway, testing games is hard. It is fun, but it's hard, and it's most of the time stressful. So there are other types of testing which are a lot more interesting. Anyway, the main idea that came from this job, and I think this is how my mindset started to build up, was to notice the difference of types and styles of people that work inside the software project. I had a very close interaction with the developer lady. She was not very young, not compared with me. I was barely 23 at the time. And this lady became a programmer, but she didn't really play a lot becoming a programmer. So she was very good with the keyboard. She was very good writing code. But when she had to take a controller, she was just not, no, she was not coordinated at all. And my defects, most of the problems that I was reporting, they were literally silly tricks to do really fast with the controller. And then I realized that the easiest and best way would be if I go and reproduce the stunts, let's call them stunts, on her machine while she's debugging and looking at the code to see where the problem is. It also happened a lot of the times that while she was being focused on trying to figure out what's wrong, some manager would come to interrupt and ask questions. When are we done? Why I'm not at my place? What is this? Am I going to put a defect really after I finish demonstrating it? And that was just bringing extra attention from everybody and interrupting the process of what we were doing there, and we always had to start over. And after a while, because she wasn't saying anything, it was me who had to tell to the manager that everything is fine, that we are going to write the defects and fix them and be ready in time and so on. So I became a little bit of a voice. This skill proved amazing later because anything that is at least a little bit creative, any job, any task, anything requires a little bit of preparation. You can't just work a creative job. This is not my metaphor, but I use it as it's mine. It's a lot like dreaming or sleeping, for that matter. You can't just go to sleep and sleep. You will need a period of wind down, and you can't just go in and dream. That's even more. So the more creative the job, the more time you need to prepare. And the same way as a dream, if you wake up, nobody can really expect that you will just fall back to sleep immediately afterwards. So dear managers, if you are managers, give some space to your testers and your developers. Interrupt them only if it's an emergency. Or write them a message that they can read later when they are done with a very important and complex thing that they are handling right now. Getting back to the testing mindset that started to develop, I noticed the creativity of people. And here I'm talking about the developers. They need to really focus on a problem in order to fix it. And the way they come up with solutions, it's not something that you can plan ahead. It just happens in the moment. I can give you a little example about what kind of problems happened and what kind of solutions happened. I was testing a game with cars, and the car had a geometrical design when it came to the physics of collisions. And I managed to drive a car in a turn surrounded by other two cars and hit the rail and break the mechanics of the physics. What happened? The wheels were defined as spheres. That's how the traction was calculated. That's how the impacts were calculated. And by the heat and the angle that I was getting into the turn, the car would stay vertical, and the only point of contact with the environment would become one point on one of the wheels, which was a sphere. And because of the momentum of the heat, the car would just stay up straight and spin like for 2 minutes. So that's not possible. That's not what happens in real life. A car will never spin on one wheel for 2 minutes. So I went to the physics engineer, let's call him like that, and showed him what I managed to do. I was actually quite proud of managing to do that. And he looked at it, and he looked at it for about 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And he said, aha, I have an idea. And I was like, okay, what is the idea? And he made a very complicated formula to define the center of the sphere in 3 axes. And he said if there is movement around any of the axes for more than 2 seconds, he will introduce an external tiny force that will bring it out of balance. This is like, I was thinking to change the shape of the wheels to make them not spheres, but of course that would have broken everything else. So I hope you can picture this in your mind. The person, it literally went in a trance. And that was the first moment when I realized I'm not a developer. There is always the joke with the tester that has the heart of a developer in a jar on the desk. No, that's not true. That's not true. Not literally, not metaphorically. A tester is a tester, and a developer is a developer. And I believe that the best thing that a tester can do is to generate the space and time for the developer to focus and do the little things very detail oriented that the developer doesn't have time to do because of creativity. Take it as my personal advice and try to be that person, the helper from the shadow, the protector against interruptions, and the provider of all the information needed to get as quickly as possible to the core of the problem in order to fix it. If you are like that, if you care about people, if you just like people in general, actually, this might be the job for you, the job that you have been looking for all your life. Wow. It's actually a very, very young job. Doing a little bit of history on the testing. Maybe 30 years, I think, maybe less. The first iteration of processes didn't have testers. It was just the developers doing debugging on the code whenever they found a problem. I want to explain now why is it called debugging and why testers find bugs. Historically, the first computers were kind of like the size of buildings. That's about 1960, and they had many open circuits. And during one presentation, it might have been NASA, I'm not sure. We can Google, we can find exactly when it happened. But during an important presentation, the computer stopped working. And the engineers that were maintaining the computer entered the room, and they found a cockroach who was trying to eat some of the exposed wires and got fried. And with itself fried some transistors and some part of the computer. Literally, it was a cockroach that brought the name of bugs to all the defects and incorrect functionality. There is actually a very big distinction between error, bug, and event. I think it's important to make it right now since it's connected to the story. Usually a developer writes the code, okay? In that code, there can be an error. In the case of that code containing an error, when the code is run and the application is running, the tester will use the application in a scenario, and that the way that it's being used when the error is manifesting itself it is resulting into a defect or a bug. It's the manifestation of the error, which is in, let's say, in a lab environment, in a control environment. An incident is when the defect is manifesting itself in a real life situation and creating an incident. Okay, let me give you an example so it's a little bit more clear. A software is controlling the traffic lights over a rail crossing. Okay, the barrier is lifting up and down at the exact same hour every day when there's the only train that is passing there. However, in the day of daylight saving time, for one entire hour, the software is not working because it's thinking it's the previous hour. Nothing happens for 150 days. The software works perfectly. The error is never encountered. However, one day, during that 1 hour, the barrier will not signal the arrival of a train. Nothing happens for 5 years because no car is passing, but in the 6th year, the train hits a car. Now, you can see what was the error, not taking into account the change of time and when it's happening, and it can be very, very rare. And even if it's happening, even if it exists and manifests itself, it doesn't necessarily mean that it will be discovered or happen. But if it does happen, the cost can be extreme. All right? So the job of the tester is to find it before it gets into production. Well, everybody's scope is that. And as you can imagine, if the developer discovered and thought about change of time, or the analyst for that matter, we will get later into the actual roles, the cost would have been much, much, much lower. If the error is discovered from the level of the code, it takes very little effort to fix and very little time. If the error is manifesting itself and a defect is discovered by a tester, a defect will have to be written down, described, sent back to the developer. The developer will need to analyze the code, find the error, fix it. It takes a little bit longer. If it gets into production, the cost can be not only time, but material damages and maybe even loss of life, as in the previous example with the train. Unfortunately, if nothing is working bad or nothing is obviously wrong, the work of a tester is pretty much invisible. So a tester is not creating anything, is not bringing anything, is just generating additional value. For a very long period of time, as I was saying, the job is pretty new. Very few managers could see the hidden value of having a testing team. And only after a long period of time, testers started to become valuable. So even after testing became a craft, the testers were considered successful developers, and are not yet prepared to be a developer. Many of the career paths started by testers attempting to become developers, and they were paid at about 70% of the amount of a developer. That was the usual market balance. So I suppose this is where that joke comes with the heart of a developer, the frustration, and it's like, okay, I'm going to grow into a beautiful butterfly. I'm just a cocoon now, or a little what are they called? Pre-butterflies. Okay, this is funny. This is really funny. I don't remember the word in English, but you know what I mean. And this is the main reason, actually. It still happens today, but it's the main reason why there are not so many testers. And it's one of the jobs where there will always be a position. The number of testers has always been smaller than the number of jobs. Usually you realize if you're a tester or you are on a path to something else after about 2 years. It's very rare to have a tester with 2 years of experience that didn't switch already. It also helps a lot that no university really has any testing classes, because as you will see, we can cover everything in a few episodes here, and you can learn it from the comfort of your chair. You don't really need to go 5 years to a university, but we'll talk about that later. So today a testing engineer, testing analyst is respected in somewhat equal manner to a developer. Everybody recognizes it's a different job, it's a different set of skills, it's a different mindset, if I didn't say this word enough. And you could definitely get into it. In the process of developing software, there are a few other players. You have to play nice with them. I'm just going to list the roles that they have and set up a little bit the next episode. Generate here a cliffhanger, so because I want people to come back and spend more time on my channel. So apologies for that, but you know, that's how it's done. I would say the brain of the project is the project manager. The main role of a project manager in general is to prepare everything, calculate the resources, and generate the plan of the project, and continue observing it and steering it in the right direction, making priorities and so on. Second role, it's the business analyst. This is the person that is translating the requirements of the customer into stories that are afterwards developed by the developer and tested by the tester. That's pretty much it. And of course the developer, and sometimes in very complicated environments there needs to be somebody that is making the releases, taking care of the hardware and deploying the software in an organized manner. So let's say the release manager is, or the release engineer is also one position in some situations. So these are the people that are working. This is the team, and you need to, as a tester, you need to find your position and become what I think it's the glue, or no, the glue is not good. The oil that makes the engine move. I think this is the best metaphor that I can think about. You are the oil that makes all the wheels turn properly. Or anyway, that's what I'm trying to be. In real life, I would say there are two big types of software producing companies. It can be a whole company or just a department. In a bigger company, I would equivalent them. So that is the type of software development when the customer that is going to use the software exactly is in direct communication with the analyst. I will give an example. A company is making the email client of a bank. The bank says what color should be, what buttons should have, the security protocols, and so on. So you know exactly and very clearly what and how it should be. The second type of company is a company that is mass producing for the usage. And an example, since I already gave it a little bit, it's a gaming company. The analyst is trying to guess what would the users prefer, how they would like the software to behave, and maybe later they get some feedback and listen to it, but the original idea is just without any kind of user interaction. And the first type of project management, and what I suppose it's still the most used in pretty much everywhere, is the waterfall model. But the waterfall model is a story for another episode. Thank you very much. Leave me a comment, send me a message, try to guess the email. I dare you, I double dare you. Guess my email. And yeah, have fun.